I want to quickly talk to you about sole source contracts. So, if you are thinking about federal government contracting, you got to really think about a variety of contract types, okay? And sole source contracts are really cool for a few reasons that I'll explain to you in today's conversation. So, if you're a startup or you are, like, let's say, a small business, you want to really pivot a little bit your strategy when it comes to government contracting, but also how to increase your revenue in terms of sole source contracts. So let's first define for you what sole source contracts really are. So if you think about a sole source contract, basically this is a direct agreement awarded to a single company without soliciting bids from multiple providers. So what happens here is that the government is going to allocate to you, is going to assign to your specific business a contract without actually soliciting bids from your competitors. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It just means that you have actually demonstrated to the government that you probably have expertise in a field, or you are, let's just say, you are in a niche that's very exclusive. I mean, there is no niche, there's no economic sector that's exclusive, but there are some areas where the government thinks that, hey, listen, we do not want to advertise this contract. We do not want to solicit bids from many entrepreneurs, right? We are going to allocate the contract to a single entrepreneur. So this is important. So what happens here is that this method of a sole source contract is actually employed when a company is uniquely qualified to fulfill the contract requirements due to, let's say, proprietary technology, specialized expertise, or time sensitive needs. Like if the government needs something to be done in 3 months or 1 month, they're not going to actually advertise or actually solicit bids from tens of contractors. They just they will go to the company that they know is pretty expert, is pretty competent in getting things done. So unlike competitive bidding, which really invites multiple companies to vie for the contract, sole source contracting bypasses the competitive process to streamline the procurement process under specific circumstances. Okay, so the term sole source refers to the exclusivity of the arrangement where no other vendor can reasonably meet the agency's requirements. Okay, and government agencies must often submit a sole source justification that outlines the reasons for selecting a particular vendor. And so it's important to understand that they have to really attach to the contract a sole source letter. Okay, they have to put like a formal document that provides detailed evidence of the company's unique qualifications and how its offerings align with the agency's needs. So if you're thinking about sole source contracting, you need to understand that if you are a small business or even an established business or a mid-sized business, okay, you got to really demonstrate that you have expertise, exclusive expertise, even though the term exclusive expertise doesn't apply in this economy, because even if you have expertise in a field, chances are your competitors are also working hard to make sure that they actually match you on that front. Okay, but for the purposes of this conversation, just understand that when you think about a sole source contract, you have to really have a certain, I would say, a prerogative. Okay, so what's the role of sole source justification? So the thing is that a sole source justification, this actually comes from the federal government agency. Okay, from the government agency. Okay, so this is, I mean, it can be a state government agency or a federal government agency, right? So the bottom line is this is a public body. This is a government agency, okay? And so a sole source justification actually is a critical component of the procurement process, because see, the thing is that the agency has to justify why they're going sole source versus competitive bidding. And this is a pretty high mark to actually match. Okay, this is a tall order, because they have to provide a rationale for awarding a contract to a single company without competition. And there are some legal ramifications to that. Okay, because people start thinking, oh, this is preferential treatment, blah 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 blah. Okay, so the agency has to have a sole source justification document, and this document outlines why a selected vendor is uniquely qualified to fulfill the contract requirements, detailing specific capabilities, expertise, or circumstances that make them the only viable option. Okay. And so, without a well drafted justification, government procurement officials may reject the sole source request, requiring the agency to pursue a competitive bidding process instead. Okay. So, sole source justifications are most commonly used when a vendor offers proprietary products unavailable from other providers, possesses, let's say, highly specialized expertise, or is necessary in time sensitive scenarios like emergency procurement. Okay. For example, a government agency might actually justify sole sourcing from a proprietary software solution or an urgent repair requiring a vendor with exclusive and specific certifications, right? So you got to have the element of exclusivity. So if you're a small business owner or just a regular business owner or a startup, you listen to me right now, you're thinking about sole source contracts. I want to talk to you a little bit about the benefits and then I'll speak about the disadvantages of those types of contracts. Okay. So let's first talk about four benefits that basically you can really think about if you are contemplating sole source contracting. Number one, you have faster procurement timelines. Number two, you have guaranteed access to specialized expertise. Three, you have simplified negotiation and administrative processes. And four, you have stronger vendor relationships. So if you are going to bid on government contracts, everything starts with you actually demonstrating your expertise in a specific field. Okay, like you got to be valuable, quote unquote, valuable to the government. You got to have something. You got to have processes. You got to have you got to have know-how that's exclusive and value added in a specific process. Okay, so when I say faster procurement timelines, if you look at it from the government point of view, having access to a sole source contractor is pretty good because the contractor can expedite procurement. The agency can expedite procurement because, unlike competitive bidding, which requires time for solicitation, evaluation, and award, sole sourcing allows agencies to contract directly with a company, and this speed of execution is particularly valuable in emergencies or when time sensitive needs arise, such as responding to natural disasters or critical equipment failures, right? So the government has a responsibility to make sure they're getting their job done. You also have guaranteed access to specialized expertise because sole source contracts are ideal when a company offers a specialized expertise or proprietary products that are not available elsewhere. For example, your company may have exclusive rights to a specific technology or a unique skill set that is project critical. Okay, so this exclusivity ensures agencies can work with the best suited provider, improving the likelihood of success on the project while maintaining a high quality standard. So you also have the simplification of negotiations and during the procurement process. So simplified negotiation and administrative processes are important because see the thing is when you have competitive bidding, when an agency or when a contract like a procurement officer has to contact 10 different companies. So you're talking about basically going through 10 different documents, 10 different procurement letters, okay, and really analyzing and reviewing all those letters. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but in case there is an emergency, you don't have time, okay? So negotiations for sole source contracts are more straightforward because only one company is involved, and that company knows that they are being granted a big favor. They are being given a big favor by getting the sole source contract, and so they'll be more lenient when it comes to negotiation terms. Okay, so agencies can focus on crafting mutually beneficial terms without the complexities of comparing multiple bids or dealing with disputes. So this simplicity also reduces administrative overhead because procurement, if you think about it, procurement teams can dedicate less time to managing the competitive bidding processes and more time to strategic tasks that ensure project success. Because the thing is, when you have a government contract process, you have, I would say, a fair amount of time that procurement officers have to really devote to the bidding process because this is competitive. Every company is trying to really put their best foot, its best foot forward. So officers have to make sure they are, let's say, they're having a fair foundation, the fair competitive foundation for everybody. So, okay, some people call it like a leveled playing field, and that takes a lot of time. That takes about 30 to 45% of their time, and the other 55% is actually dedicated, is actually devoted to the actual management of the project. So that's a lot of time. Okay, so you also have stronger vendor relationships. So agencies can build long-term partnerships that benefits both parties by consistently working with trusted companies like yours, okay? Because you have demonstrated expertise in the past, you have demonstrated competencies in the past, you have done a good job in the past, and you do have expertise. You do have exclusive expertise. Agencies are more likely to actually work with you to make sure that you are really delivering the value that you have delivered to the government in the past. So now that I've just told you about the four distinct benefits of sole source contracts, let me talk about the cons, the drawbacks, the challenges that you have sometimes in sole source contracts. So the first one is that there is a perception of favoritism or a lack of competition, right? And this is important because it does have legal ramifications. Because some companies can actually sue the government agency that, hey, listen, they were not treated fairly during the bidding process, and this can really this can have, yeah, very dire ramifications for the government. You also have a risk of inflated costs because, okay, I'll talk about that later on, but you have burden of documentation and compliance, and you have limited innovation opportunities. So when I talk, I want to first talk about the perception of favoritism or lack of competition. Let's say a procurement officer has a solid relationship with company A, and he or she has worked with company A for the last 10 years. And he knows or she knows that basically company A has the expertise needed. And they've done great work together. And so all sole source contracts will go to company A, right? So awarding a contract to a single vendor without competitive bidding can lead to concerns from stakeholders about whether they obtain the best value or quality in the work done. So agencies must address this directly by providing thorough sole source justifications and sole source letters that clearly explain why no other company but yours can meet actually the requirements they have set for the projects. So when I say a risk of inflated costs, that's really true because when you actually reach out to one single company, it knows that it has won the contract already. So there is a chance we're all humans. Okay, this is human behavior to actually think about inflating costs a little bit. So without the checks and balances of a competitive bidding process, sole source contracts may result in inflated costs. So companies may have less incentive to offer competitive pricing when they know they are government agencies. Okay, their government agencies are only considering them. Okay, and government agencies have to negotiate carefully and conduct market research to ensure the terms of the contract are fair and aligned with industry standards. Like they have to get actually some kind of feedback on the pricing. Another disadvantage when it comes to sole source contracts, not only for agencies but also for small businesses, is the burden of documentation and compliance. Okay, because believe it or not, sole source contracts require extensive documentation to actually justify the selection of a single company. Like, if you have to really say, you know what, I'm just out of thousands of companies, I'm only choosing one. That's really a huge burden of proof. Like you have to really prove that company is really the best. So Agencies must prepare detailed sole source justifications and ensure sole source letters address all potential questions from auditors and oversight bodies. And the thing is that if they have to prepare all that process, you bet that you, being the company that they're going to choose or they have chosen already, is going to like you are going to provide more justification, more evidence actually. So this administrative burden can be both time consuming and resource intensive, particularly if the agency is understaffed or has a small procurement team. And you also have limited innovation opportunities, right? Because basically relying on a single company can actually limit exposure to new ideas or innovative solutions that other providers may offer in a competitive bidding process. And if you really think about it, this could sometimes mean what? It can mean that, for instance, a government agency they do miss out on technological advancements or alternative approaches that may better serve their needs, right? Because we are in an open economy, you just never know where innovation will come from. So you got to really make sure that you consider if you're going with sole source, that you have done your research and you are getting the best, okay? Now, to mitigate this sort of a limited innovation opportunity, agencies should periodically assess their reliance on sole source contracts and consider whether competitive processes could actually yield better outcomes. Okay. Every challenge, as you can see, underscores the importance of a balanced approach to sole source contracting. Okay. Because while sole source contracts actually are great to when it comes to providing efficiency and reliability, you want to make sure that those challenges are being addressed. So one thing I want to really understand here is that, basically, sole source contracts are actually justified in scenarios where competition is either impractical or unnecessary due to the unique circumstances of the scenario, right? So, like I said before, the most common justifications include the need for proprietary technology or intellectual property, right? When a vendor has exclusive rights to a product or a service that's actually essential to the contract's objectives, sole sourcing ensures access to this unique capabilities. Okay, or let's just say a vendor has expertise or it has done great work in the past. Okay, that's really important. So if you want to really engage in sole source contracting, you want to focus on crafting strong justifications and adhering to best practices. Okay, you want to make sure that you have things like certifications, performance records, case studies, IP like patents, whatever really can justify the fact that you have proprietary technology. You want to really get that paperwork ready. Okay, and also you want to draft a professional sole source letter so that basically you can clearly outline the rationale for sole sourcing. Okay, so basically you want to explain to auditors or even the government agency why competitive bidding is not really needed in this specific case. Okay, and that's how you're going to really I would say advance your case. Okay, now ensure the letter is concise, thorough, and tailored to the agency's needs because this will serve as the cornerstone of your justification. Okay, so compliance with government regulations is critical to avoid rejections or delays. So you want to familiarize yourself with the relevant procurement guidelines and address any potential concerns about, let's say, transparency or even fairness. Okay, and one thing you need to understand here is that you want to have a contact that can talk to the government agency, if there are further questions. Because when you send a sole source contract, I'm sorry, a sole source letter to a government agency, sometimes they have questions, they have follow up questions, and you got to have somebody who can answer those questions expertly. So, as a coda in today's conversation, I spoke to you about sole source contracting. Okay. I went through everything you need to know about sole source contracting, the pros and cons, the roles, the role of this type of a sole source, this type of contracting, okay, and basically the best practices you need to really put in place to actually win more sole source contracts. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.